Beautiful.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Michelle.
Yay, we found our way.
We are in.
Well, yes, everyone joining. I am so sorry. We were trying to figure something out with some of the new Zoom settings. They did a security update. So we have to convert this over to webinar. But I think hopefully, Enrique, does it look like everyone that's supposed to be on early is on early?
Yeah, yes, Lily, Lan, Ricardo, you, Frank. There's a couple more people from Parks I thought were joining, right? Yeah, so I think, I mean, it's 6:15 anyway, so we'll just be here. And then, of course, council members should be joining us too. I put it earlier on his calendar, so.
And I just added a new link to his calendar in case he texts you. And if anyone else reaches out to you, just let them know to check their email. Not to join the pre-meeting, but to join the actual meeting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Email the council member.
How's everybody?
Good. Thank you for being here, Frank.
Of course. Nice to meet some of you.
Nice to meet you too.
And what parks do you, I don't quite know how county parks work. What parks do you cover as a ranger?
Yeah. Parks are broken up into park units, and then the bigger picture is regions. I spent 8 years patrolling Almond and Quicksilver, but I promoted to a captain. So I do a region, which is the west side of the county, everything from Calero. You follow the west hillside up to Stevens Creek Park. So
wow.
Yeah, Cupertino, Los Gatos,
big.
that area there.
It's a huge area.
Nice.
Well, 8 years in Quicksilver, so you know what we're here tonight to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of experience working on an exact area.
Oh, very good.
Councilmember, did you have a chance to look over the talking point script?
No, when did that come in?
Oh, I emailed it earlier, but then I also just sent you an update.
I would say no. I've been in meetings all day and I didn't see it.
Yeah. Well, if you just want to take a look at it, it's pretty simple. You just want to read through it to yourself and then let me know if there's anything you want to change.
So Enrique, if you could look at
6:16.
Well, no, I sent one before, but this is the latest update.
What time is the meeting? 6:30?
Yeah, so the council member is gonna just open up with the lines that I provided him, and then we're gonna move to county parks, so you guys can talk about the lack of a parking lot, I guess, up there, and as well as efforts that have been done. I know you guys have been advertising the other parking lots instead, and then we'll move it on to DOT. That is going to screen share like a map of like where the current curbs are and where they might want to add some, or where the residents requested. Larry Peng, he shared that with me. And then afterwards, we're going to collect all the Q&As that come in, and I'll read them off. And then I'll just direct them off to whoever is best suited for that. And then once all the questions are exhausted, I'll circle it back to council member just to thank everybody for joining, and we'll sign off from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
And to Larry and Lily, I just saw you emailed me. I apologize. You got two links. So the pre-meeting one was not valid anymore because we converted it. So I apologize. But I think, Enrique, can you check and make sure everybody that should be on early is on now?
Yeah, well, let me pull it up right now.
So yeah, we had to make a last minute change and convert this over to webinar. So apologies to everyone for the links. At 6:30, we're going to open up the line and allow attendees in. So once that happens, they will be able to see you on the screen unless you stop your video and we will not be able to start your video once you stop it. We can ask you to start it, but just be aware. Sometimes I've seen people think that they can't be seen and they get up and they do random things in the background. So I'm just letting you know, unless you stop your own video, the attendees will see you starting 6:30 once we let in the residents that have registered.
So we have everybody here except for Annie Thompson. I think we're just waiting on her.
Come on in a few moments, right?
Actually, we already have 3 residents that have joined. So we will just, if everybody wants to turn off your video for now, and at 6:30, we will start the meeting.
Okay.
Hey, Lamb, were you able to send an invite to our new senior engineer who we asked to join on here? Is it a unique invitation for participation, Michelle?
Amel, yeah, well, if to be on the panel, yes, it's a unique URL, but to just register, she could just register if you just want her to watch.
Okay, yes.
If you want her to be able to talk, then yeah, we would need to send her a link.
So she would be just observing. So where does she have?
So Amel, so can you send us the
Yeah,
can you send Amel?
Yeah, I'll email it right now.
So I can email you a mail of her name.
Sure.
Okay.
By the way I'm registered, it looks like I'm just an attendee as well, but somebody else should introduce the names. Enrique, why don't you introduce the people's names and just when we get to that part, okay? Because you gave me, I botched people's names up.
We have, we botched up some names. So Enrique will do that. And we also have Adrian on the line helping. And so we will just stop. I'm going to stop your video now. You're muted, council member. And now we, to John, Lupe, Rog, and Sharon joining us. We are going to get started in about 10 minutes.
Okay. The council members saw through the notes, right? Like
Walked away. He looks like he was reading them, but he got up and walked away. Is Annie having trouble connecting to audio?
She was having issues with I think the first link that was sent out, so I forwarded her the most recent one, so she may be attempting now.
Oh, there she is. Now it works.
To all our attendees that have joined so far, we're just going to get the meeting started at 6:30. And to any panelists that are on, please stay muted, and we will start the meeting at 6:30. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going live here, if I'm not mistaken. I have a lot of my staff members on the line. Hopefully they'll tell me yes or no. This is Councilmember Johnny Camus, and good evening to everybody who's joined us here today for our online town hall meeting. And this is hopefully all of you saw the flyers. I'm glad those of you who are attending today, hopefully you got one of those. The reason we're having this meeting, because we've been receiving a whole lot of correspondence about the parking situation at the Maccabee entrance to Quicksilver Park. And, you know, quite frankly, I wanted to explain what we've been doing about it and what can be done, and then open it up to questions later on. So before we start, I wanted to go over basically the outline of this meeting. And so first, we're going to hear from County Park staff, which will be speaking on the history of the entrance, reasons why the parking lot is not a planned project, and the steps that they have taken to address the community's concerns. And then it'll be followed by the City Department of Transportation staff, which will explain the history and traffic parking concerns in the area, what their options that they've studied and or considered, and the challenges to each of those options, and then what we can do as a city today. And then after that, we're going to kick off the question and answer period. So if you're on Zoom, just press the Q&A section, and so that we can see your questions. So please, and one of the staff members have it, Enrique Navarro. Amal is also on the line, I think, and Adrian, one of our great, fantastic interns, is also on the line.
As well as Michele Dexter, yes, from your staff.
Okay, as well as Michele Dexter, and I don't know, maybe my staff is.
Okay, let's see. To introduce the city and the county staff who are joining me from the county parks here. I'm going to have my staff introduce all the other the county staff and the Department of Transportation staff. So take
Absolutely.
it away.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember. Hi, so I'm Enrique, and I'm the Transportation Deputy for Councilmember Camus. So from County Parks, we have Annie Thompson, who's a Deputy Director of Planning, Development, and Land Stewardship, Jeremy Farr, who's a Principal Planner, and Frank Wieland, who is a Park Ranger. And then from our Department of Transportation, we have Lily Limsow, who's a Deputy Director, Lam Cruz, who's a Division Manager for Transportation Safety, Ricardo Morales, a Senior Civil Engineer, and then Larry Peng and Jason Situ, who are both Associate Civil Engineers. So that's our whole panel there. And basically from that point, I think we're ready to pass off the proverbial mic to County Parks to explain the entrance's background and discuss the parking lot situation and what they've done at present to at least mitigate the volume of hikers that we have coming to Maccabee. So anybody who's ready can go ahead and take over. I'll mute myself.
Good evening, city staff, council member, and members of the public. My name is Jeremy Farr. I'm the Principal Planner for Santa Clara County Parks. As Enrique said, Annie Thompson is also attending, who's our Deputy Director of Planning, Development, and Land Stewardship, and Frank Weiland, who is our Park Ranger Supervisor for Region 2, which would include Almond and Quicksilver, and was also a ranger in the early 2000s for about 8 years at Almond and Quicksilver. So he's very familiar with the issue at hand. So, you know, as I said, County Parks has been working with the neighborhood since the late 90s to address the trail use from the entrance at Maccabee Road. You know, we are sympathetic to the existing issues and how they've been exacerbated by the shelter-in-place order, as we've seen up to 3 times our normal park visitation throughout our system. So, you know, previous issues have really been exacerbated by the increased use of county parks. So in 1998, we completed a master plan for Almond and Quicksilver, which identified a staging area to be built at the entrance of Maccabee Road. You know, over the years, the county has tried several times to purchase different properties, but we've been unable to acquire a property for various reasons. One of those reasons is we are required to comply with our real estate appraisals when we purchase property, and many of these properties have been appraised at one value and sold at several times the appraised value to a competitive bidder. So we've been unable to purchase properties. In other cases, we've had potential properties that have come up that we have been unable to purchase or unwilling to purchase because of significant site constraints that would only allow us, that would not allow us to address the entire issue of parking on Maccabee Road. So, you know, in 2009 was the last time that we had a formal public meeting on the public use and parking for Maccabee Road. Since then, we've taken a number of steps to try and reduce the use of the Maccabee entrance. The Maccabee entrance is no longer advertised on the county parks website and is not actually identified as an entrance on our park guide map. The trail for the Senator Mine is identified, but the entrance is not identified, nor is there any identification of potential parking. We have also avoided having any programs or events in this area and encouraging the use of other staging areas at Mockingbird Lane and Hacienda and Wood Road. We've also made significant improvements at other staging areas, such as putting a full bathroom at Hacienda. And we've also tried to improve staging and access at other county parks nearby, including over $1.5 million into a staging area and new trails at the Rancho San Vicente property, which is part of Calero County Park. In addition, we would typically have charged entry fees at the Mockingbird, Hacienda, and Wood Road staging areas, but we do not charge admission fees those staging areas to encourage public use of those as opposed to Maccabee Road. And we've also worked with Google Maps back when it was very relevant, MapQuest, and other public websites that advertise trails. And while we've made our best attempt to remove Maccabee and the advertisements for the trail entrance, unfortunately we don't have a lot of control over crowd sourcing of information, and so we've done a lot to try and get them removed, only to have them placed back immediately following our efforts. And then also to address people using the entrance, we've added portable toilets and garbage cans within Alvin and Quicksilver at the Senator Mine Junction in order to deal with any issues with people who are using Maccabee Road as a parking area but don't have facilities on the road. And at this point, that's what we have attempted to do to address some of the issues with parking on Maccabee Road. We're open to listening to some of the concerns and working with the neighborhood and city on other improvements that we can do to help alleviate this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And now we'll hear from our Department of Transportation.
I guess I can start. Let me just do a brief recap of what have we done in the past and what's currently in the hopper for us to do. They are very, very similar, if not identical. I'm going to share my screen with you, a map that we produce. The staff has, Jason actually has produced for the purpose of this meeting and illustration. So let's see if I can do that. So on this map, the base map is based on the information Enrique has provided us with the segment of the street within this neighborhood area of concern. A quick illustration, quick description will be, if you see the thin blue line with the dot at the end, that's the segment that are being included in the, for the sake of this discussion. And for example, this one, Woodbourne Road, Pierce Ranch Drive, etc. The black circle indicates the past project that we have done from as early as 2008. These are numbered in chronological order. So number 1 being the earliest one. Let me see, I had it with me right here. So this was requested either late 2007 or early 2008, and it was completed on February 12 of 2008. What we have done is to install red curb on both sides of this ramp at this corner. So similarly, you can find out number 2, number 3, number 4, etc. So what we have completed is 10 of these requests up until up to date. And then we do have 4 other requests we have just received recently. One is for this area, the Whispering Pine Drive and Pierce Ranch Drive, and also in the opposite corner, and also one for Sky Farm and Maccabee Row, and then the latest one is this one at Woodbourne at the Bend. So naturally, the thicker red line indicates the approximate location of the red curb that we have put in the last 12 years or so. And pending on our investigation of these 4 new ones, number 11 to 14, we may be looking into installing more red curb segment at these corner, or for some cases, lengthen the existing red curb to provide better visibility at intersection as well as the residential driveways. That concludes my portion of the update, and I don't know if anybody from DOT would like to interject.
Okay, so now that we've heard from the county and from DOT, I don't know if somebody eliminate the screen, but I would like to go.
Councilmember, you cut out.
Sorry. So, now that we've heard from both the Department of Transportation and the county, I'd like to go to questions from the public. And I think one of my staff members will start reading them off, and hopefully they're addressed to one of the members of the county or the Department of Transportation. But can we have one of my, is it Adrian or Enrique?
Yeah, I'll read them out. So we have about, I think we have 5 questions come in so far. So we'll start from the top. Gerald Clark says, I have lived near the entrance for over 30 years, and my wish for the long term is to keep the entrance open. Under the circumstances, however, he wonders if the entrance should be closed until spring of 2021. As he notes, there are too many cars and people going in and out of the entrance. Is a temporary closure being considered? I guess this goes to county parks.
I think at this time, we have not considered a temporary closure. I don't think that we have had, maybe Frank can speak to this. I don't think that we've had an abnormal amount of complaints that we're not seeing, and we have other, all of our other staging areas open, and we are advertising those and encouraging people when we see them and when we meet them in the parks to use those staging areas. But maybe Frank, you can talk to what you've been seeing out in the park.
Yes, I can agree that for what Jeremy had said, there is an increased usage in the parks overall, but we're also noticing some relief in the Maccabee area and increased numbers in the other staging areas that we mentioned. We referred to other parking lots and staging areas called Mockingbird and Hacienda, those are just a few miles south, and they're very formal entrances and staging areas that have improvements, including paved parking, restrooms, and then waived parking fees, as mentioned there. It's been months since we've received any single complaint from the Maccabee area, directed from a park user or the general public or a resident. Any complaints would be coming in and be documented through our park office or our county dispatch. And I can't recall any recent complaints whatsoever. We do try to maintain a active patrol in the area daily. And at this time, I can't recall any discussion of a closure being made in that area. However, it would be a difficult transition if we tried to do that. And I believe that there's probably an equal amount of people that would want to maintain keeping that open for the short term as well as the long term.
All right.
We can go to the next question. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much for that. Well, so the next question here actually touches kind of on the similar topic. So, seeing that there isn't necessarily a closure in the works, they're basically trying to ask here, what would it take for the county to ever consider closing the lot, or closing the entrance? What would have to happen, I guess, for that to happen?
I mean, I would say that, just speaking from my knowledge, we would have to acquire an adequate area to open and develop as a staging area, which would be in the vicinity of Maccabee, which I mean just the north end of the county park there. Not necessarily on a Maccabee or Whispering Pines, but we would need to find an adjacent property to develop. But I can't speak any further on that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit further. I think Jeremy covered this topic pretty thoroughly in the beginning, but as you heard, County Parks has explored that extensively over the years, and the trouble is property values. So it's very difficult to acquire the necessary land to do that. So, I mean, to build a staging area. So we're limited in our options with the existing geography. But I think some of these things suggested that we could think about in coordination with the city, we may be able to find other solutions that would not necessarily require us to close this access point.
All right. Well, let's see here. So we have some members of the community raising their hand. There's a gentleman named Rog Henson. So I think Mel can you can allow him to ask the question.
You can hear me now?
We can hear you.
I think as somebody who's been out here for 20 years, I'm trying to understand what the real issues are. And I also have a question about the, I've noticed a lot of these, red no parking areas going around. And as I run by, I go out and run just about every morning. And as I run by, as an example, Maccabee and I think it's Whitbourne, it starts on one side of the corner and goes all the way around the other side of the corner. And it seems to me that there's two parking places right there that should be available for parking. I don't understand why that happens. And I'm still trying to understand what constitutes an actual red zone. Is it just because somebody complains in their house and they say, hey, I don't want somebody parking by my house? Or is there some hazard area or some risk involved, or something that might be dangerous? I don't understand. It doesn't seem like there's any I can't establish a pattern other than I know a couple of my neighbors called, and the next thing I know they had somebody painted red in front of their house. And that being said, I live right next to a fire hydrant. I'm the third house off the corner of Pierce Ranch at 6560 Whispering Pines, and I had to put a cone out there in front of the fire hydrant because people do try to park there all the time, and I got tired of asking people not to park there. So if any place should be parked, if there should be any red, it should be in front of that fire hydrant. But I don't understand why some of these places, why parking places just go away because somebody doesn't want somebody to park in front of their house. And that being said, as a person, and I'm just speaking for myself now, as a person who pays his taxes, pays my registration for my car, I assume my taxes go to maintain the streets. I just think that people should be able to come out here and enjoy and pay for the park. I think people should be able to come out here and enjoy the park. They should be able to park where they want as long as they're parked legally. and we shouldn't really have any issue. So I guess I'm just trying to understand what the issue is.
Well, we'll have DOT answer how a red zone gets designated as such. I don't think it's as simple as one complaint, but I could, you know, and why the fire hydrant isn't painted red. So we'll let DOT handle that one.
This is Larry Peng again. I am, for the late joiner, I am the traffic coordinator for this area of San Jose. It will be a long answer to a long question, but I will start with the easier one. The issue with red curb at fire hydrant. As you know, there are numerous fire hydrants in the city of San Jose, and most of them right now do not have any sort of a red curb in front of them. Reason being, if we put it in, that we have to most likely to install on most of these, if not all of the fire hydrant, and then it will become a maintenance issue because the city, the DOT, just like any other department, we are having a shortage on maintenance fund as well as other budgetary constraint. That's number one. And also I mentioned, if I put in a red curb in front of a fire hydrant, which is typically 15 feet in both directions, though that's 30 feet total, some of the driver may not believe when they approach a fire hydrant where there's no red curb, they might think they can park there as close as to 4 or 5 feet from it. So it creates a natural, how should I say, confusion. So, but being said, I think I heard you mention your address. If you wouldn't mind typing it in the Q&A, Jason and I will try to contact you individually, and we will look into that particular fire hydrant in your house or in front of your house. We can take a look and see if we can do that. Second, red curb in general are not put in because the homeowner does not, quote unquote, does not want anybody parking in front of their home. Red curbs are usually put in for two reasons. One is to maintain adequate visibility at an intersection. These include the line of sight from the crossing streets, as well as clearances at the wheelchair ramp at most of these corners. So when we go out there, when we receive a request indicating there's lack of visibility at a particular intersection, we will evaluate this intersection as a whole. We will actually most likely drive the car in each direction a few times and see what would be adequate. If there's a need for red curb, if so, how much red curb there's needed. The second type will be for driveway visibility and safety. Since many of the concern in this area is based on during high use time, and many of the vehicle will block a portion of the existing driveway. And then when we are called out to evaluate this kind of request, we look at a number of things. The total distance between two adjacent driveway. You know, in San Jose, we use 20 feet we use that to gauge a parking space. So for example, if the distance between two driveway is 50 feet, it might fit 2.5 cars or 3 really small cars. So, and also if the owner for both of this house is concerned about vehicle intruding into their driveway, and after we get consent from them, we can install 3 to 5 feet at both ends of this, we call the open curb. So the remaining curb distance will be about 40 feet. Also, when parking is in high demand, this area is a little bit of a unique case because these are all single family houses with 2-car garage and 2-car driveway. It's different than downtown where you have narrow driveway and parking is in very high demand. by its nature. This area of parking is in high demand because of the park usage. So we look very careful in evaluating each of these requests, and we try not to put in too much red curb unless it's really needed. For the case of the driveway intrusion, if the open curb is very long, like more than 70 or 80 feet, we typically would only put in a short segment, 2 or 3 feet at the driveway in question. If the homeowner wants to say, hey, you know, people are blocking my driveway, I don't like it, affecting my my ingress and egress of my vehicle on my driveway and garage, we would do that. But we try to limit that to 2 to 3 feet. It looks more obvious than a driveway itself, and it's easier for the parking compliance officer to issue a citation. These are basically two scenarios we would be installing red curb at a residential neighborhood like this. Now, if you're seeing a lot of red curb, if you believe there's no reason why the red curb is there, let us know. We will look into our record to see if perhaps one or several of the homeowner got a little bit creative. They decided to paint the red curb themselves. You know, we can distinguish that pretty easily because we use a different type of paint with a different ingredient in there. So, and also last but not the least, we receive many calls to ask us to reevaluate whether or not the existing red curbs are necessary in front of a particular property, because like the gentleman say, the red curb looks not the most, the red curbs are not the most appealing thing in front of your home, and many believe it affects property value. So we do receive a fair number of requests to have these reevaluated and removed. And that's why we always want to get the property owner's consent, at least notify them that this will be put in. If you're the homeowner, property owner requesting this, my guess, we're gonna assume that you're okay with this. But if we're putting it in the adjacent, in an area between you and the other property, we would like to at least notify the neighboring property owner. So more question, if you have more question about red curves and whether you can request one, we are more than happy to look into it for you. So like I said, contact Mr. Jason C2 or myself. We'll be happy to take a look.
All right, thank you so much for your help there, Larry. So we have some more raised hands, and we're getting a hefty stream of questions. So I'll try to move through these as effectively as we can. So there's a raised hand from Francisco. I'm gonna, I guess, oh, you just got unmuted. Okay, cool. So go ahead and ask your question, Francisco.
Hi, thank you for your time. With regards to what the gentleman was just saying in terms of having to paint every fire hydrant red, for us here, and I'm on Pierce Ranch Road, it's really a safety issue. It's not so much a nuisance issue. I mean, you'd think that folks would know not to park in front of a fire hydrant. I think we all learned that when we were taking our DMV exams and everything else, but that's not the case. And I think an issue there is there's lack of enforcement. There's not a deterrent. They figure the city is not going to be enforcing a citation on a Saturday or Sunday. As an individual mentioned, the city's resources are pretty stretched. So if there's no deterrent, if there's no enforcement, then it doesn't matter how many curbs we paint red. Now, with regards to the fire hydrant from my particular home, and again, I'm looking at it from my perspective, and I've lived here almost 20 years, is about 8 to 10 years ago, there was a brush fire, pretty good sized brush fire close to kind of the T where Pierce Ranch and Whispering Pines is. And they used the fire hydrant in front of my house. So again, it's not just a nuisance, it's really a safety issue, which is why I put in the Q&A that I'd want specifically my fire hydrant to be the curb to be painted red, and something to consider in the immediate area.
It is brush.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm just talking to my wife here. It is, we're living very close to brush in the hot season. I mean, I would imagine that if nothing else, the fire hydrants in the closest vicinity to the park should be painted red. And again, there should be some sort of enforcement. Maybe it's going to be a revenue generator for the city if we have somebody monitoring this on the weekends and actually issuing citations so there's a deterrent. Thank you.
So Francisco, like I mentioned earlier, please contact either myself or Jason C2. Probably the best way to do it during shelter-in-place will be to email us. Our emails are very simple, first name dot last name at sanjoseca.gov. And in fact, all the city employees have the same format of email. We'll be more than happy to look into it for you.
Larry Payne.
All right. Thank you so much for that, for your question. Let's see here. So we have some individuals who have their hands raised and they have a question on the Q&A thread. So I'm trying to cross-reference them to maximize efficiency here. I see we have a hand raised from Blanche. So why don't we allow her to ask her question if it's the same as we have here in Q&A.
Hi, yeah, we've been a resident here since 1985, and I've spoken to multiple neighbors about this issue. So we live in between Pierce Ranch and the court, Bay Ridge Court, so our sidewalk is actually quite a bit of space, and I can't tell you how many times people have made U-turns pulling into my driveway. My kids have been playing in the front yard now that we can't do anything else, and now I've had to move them to the backyard because people are reckless and can't see because so many cars are parked there and they pull into my driveway, and twice I've almost hit my kids.
Yeah, so is there, so I'm wondering then, that seems like it's a speeding control issue. So I don't know if one of our engineers can maybe comment on that. I mean, I know we do have like a speed study mechanism that, we've done for other streets before, but it sounds like that might be more of a road design issue. If somebody can chime in there.
Again, as I mentioned earlier, this is the Pierce Ranch neighborhood area. It's made up of primarily residential street or non-general plan type of streets. So these are 25-mile prima facie speed limit, which there should be sporadic speed limit sign posted. It's difficult at our staff resource level this time. It's difficult to do a area-wise reconnaissance of all the speed limit signs, signage and marking, etc. But we can proceed with the limit that's shown on the map I just showed you. Whereas in terms of cars that are quote unquote speeding through a particular segment of a particular street, like Enrique said before, we typically, before we can determine that there is a quote unquote speeding issue, we would need to collect data. And then if you go to the traffic calming handbook, there are guidelines within the city of San Jose that define what's considered speeding. Unfortunately, during this shelter-in-place time, we believe that the traffic patterns and the volume is not at his normalcy. So we have been delaying or postponing any such request to gather speed and volume data. So my best short-term solution that I can offer to you is to contact the San Jose Police Department's Traffic Enforcement Unit, and I can you can find it on Police Department's website, and then or shoot us the email. We'll be more than happy to provide that for you. That system is they prioritize their requests by the number of call and concern they receive in a general area, and also by there's other factor too. But for residential area, there's usually by the frequency and then the volume of the calls and concern for this particular area. If and when the shelter-in-place time is concluded, and then we believe that traffic has back to its normalcy, and traffic both patterns and volume, we can proceed with the consideration of ordering speed and volume data before we can proceed with the next step of the analysis, the speed abatement. I must emphasize it is for short-term solution and enforcement, PD traffic enforcement unit is the best solution at this point. Unless perhaps my supervisor and my division manager has something to add on top of what I just say.
Hi there, this is Lily, Deputy Director of Traffic Operations. I think one of the things that maybe to draw attention to Enrique maybe is to bring the attention of these concerns to the beat officer who often patrol the areas, and that would be good for them to know. Just these are the types of activities that are occurring in this vicinity, and having them be aware would be good if that hasn't been done.
Yeah, I agree, and of course the community can always email our district office. I mean, we have monthly meetings with our police captain, and we share all sorts of community concerns. So like as Larry mentioned, it's first name dot last name at sanjoseca.gov, and we can always forward these to PD as we know as we have contacts there, and we can just bring it to their attention. But beyond that, it looks like we have another question here, and some of these questions are a bit similar. But there's another one we have here. It says, oh, actually, hold on. There's somebody who also has their hand up, and it says talking permitted. Sharon and David Armstrong. So if they have a question, I'd welcome them to ask before I move on.
This is Dave Armstrong. Yeah, I'd just like to comment on how the park department, because it does not have a parking lot for this entrance, has essentially turned the neighborhood into part of the park. In other words, our street is essentially a county park parking lot. So we have daily work we have to do picking up garbage and mass from the street. Occasionally we have broken windows from break-ins. We have to sweep the glass. We've asked the park department to help with sweeping up the glass. They refused. We have about a week ago, a lady had one of the park visitors defecate in her driveway, which is pretty disgusting. I only previously had somebody dump their motor oil in my waste can, which I guess I got off lucky. I had to park the fire department in my driveway, pumping the stomach of a young lady who tried to commit suicide at the park. So I couldn't get in my driveway because the fire department was in my driveway. And I could go on with about 500 more incidents. But I think the bottom line is this issue has been dealt with at East Bay Regional Parks. There's a Mission Creek Park where the neighbors hired a lawyer and sued the park department until they would properly get a parking lot, because this is a parking area with 350 cars at one time. Over the course of a day, 1,000 cars, maybe 2,000 visitors. This is a major, major visitor attraction that's been created without proper adherence to state law, without following CEQA guidelines, without traffic studies. And I've reported to the county parks over and over the years that you've created a dangerous traffic hazard there. There's near misses and there's hits. Every now and then people come ring my door to get information on who hit their car. So it's a terrible situation the county has created, and they're violating the law, in my opinion.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And also, just for everybody's edification, if you want to have a question about the beat officer, again, just email us at our District 10, District 10 at sanjoseca.gov, and we can respond to all those particular questions. Anything that's public safety related, of course, we don't really have anybody in that field representing us here with us right now, but we can definitely get back to you.
Yeah, Enrique, give me a second here. So there was a question about trash, and there was several other people that inquired about trash earlier. I'm sorry, I've been having technical difficulties. The questions pop up, they go away. you know, what can be done about people littering in the neighborhood? I'm very concerned about that. There was one person that talked about people throwing masks and just on the floor in the neighborhood. Who's responsible? Can the county help us clean up the area?
Yeah, I think I can speak to that, Councilman. So Annie Thompson, Deputy Director at County Parks, just for those who are joining late, I was just actually corresponding with our director, and we obviously could consider increasing maintenance and ranger patrols in this area, but we'd want to do that in coordination with the city. And it's not really our jurisdiction to be picking up trash in people's front yards if some of these park visitors are not behaving themselves. Also, it's hard to know that all of these situations are actually related to park use. Some of these things, like people behaving badly in their car, that I'm seeing some of the comments, this happens on side streets in many locations. So it's not necessarily something that we can control and enforce, but we can definitely coordinate with the city. And on our maintenance, we could increase our maintenance patrols to try to pick up some of that trash. And that's definitely something I think we could work on, as well as signage. I'm not familiar with what signage is currently there, but I think, again, we could work with the city on their right-of-way jurisdiction and on our parkland and increase signage to warn people about littering and fines and so forth, if that would maybe be helpful.
And maybe we can even add another garbage can near the entrance or something if they're overflowed or something like that. I think our department would really appreciate that. There's the other request that I was thinking about while we're hearing some of the discussions is, I know that you guys are purposefully trying to filter people over to the other entrance, and I really appreciate that. Can we occasionally have flyers given out to people entering at that entrance so that they know that there's bathrooms and something else at the other side?
We were talking about that in our internal coordination meetings. We've been talking about that. Frankly, it's really hard to figure out how to communicate with people and to redirect them, which is why, as Jeremy mentioned earlier, we have, not identified this entrance on most of the material on our website, but we could potentially restructure that to not only not highlight it, but to redirect people to other locations, saying this is an impacted location. And we've done that for some of our other very busy entrances, especially during, the COVID-19 shelter in place, since our traffic is increasing. So that's definitely, again, in coordination with the city, something we could consider. And I wanted to also mention, I actually worked for East Bay Regional Parks for many years and am familiar with the Mission Peak issue to an extent. I wasn't the planner on the project. But one of the great challenges of planning parks is that it's very hard to predict human behavior and what's going to draw somebody to a specific location. And in some cases, building more parking actually makes the situation worse. So one of the things that actually, could work in this spot is that it is self-limiting. And if we continue to coordinate with the city, we might be able to, and do, other things in modern technology, like we said, redirect people through our apps, through our website, through signage to other locations that may actually be more effective than developing parking here. Because remember, developing a large parking lot here would bring additional traffic. And really, when this park was planned, as Jeremy mentioned, when the master plan was done, there wasn't simply this level of development immediately adjacent, nor the population that we currently see. So, while it was fully compliant with environmental review and law at the time, conditions have changed. And so, we're not necessarily obligated to assess that in a new way, but, we hear you, and we do want to work on improving these things.
I appreciate that. And if you could work with us on better maintenance, garbage and signage, I think a lot of that could continue to change in a positive direction. I also want to make sure that we are questions. I'm finally getting them. Somebody said that the red curbs are aesthetically not pleasing, but thanks us because they're allowing him to get out of his driveway. Can entrance be temporarily closed? Will it consider? Okay. Let you get back, Enrique, to answering more questions from the public.
Okay, so there is a question, a general question here about permit parking. Can we get permit parking so people do not park? And I think we've discussed this between ourselves before, but if somebody from DOT would like to explain about the residential permit parking and basically the challenges with that at the moment.
Sure. Enrique, this is Lily again, Transportation Operations Deputy Director. We, at this point in our city resources, do not have a permit parking program. About 10 years ago, due to limited resources, our permit parking program was eliminated. And today, still today, we've not been able to resource or find the resource to recreate or reinstitute the parking permit program. I do recall being told, though, about 10 years ago under the permit program that there was an informal survey of the residents. And again, this was about 10 years ago, of the residents who may or may not want or in favor or not in favor of residential permit parking program. And I was told that there was not adequate interest in favor of the permit program. So that never occurred. But what it would take in order to reinstitute the program would be to create or hire a employee, a staff person, which at a cost of $150,000, $170,000 plus the signage, the installation of it. There's another $5,000 to $25,000 depending on the size of the zone. And then the enforcement officer that would be needed to focus in this area, and that's another person. So it's just kind of pointing out the cost of the program that the city currently does not have due to the cost.
And I just wanted to chime in that permit parking was part of the solution that was created for the Mission Peak situation in the East Bay.
And I can tell you that talking to many residents who live in the area, I don't think that there's unanimity on this issue. I've gotten 2 phone calls asking us not to do permit parking. And quite frankly, that's more phone calls than I've gotten for permit parking by 1. So if that's any measure, there won't be enough signatures. There's a whole stringent process to do permit parking, and it takes more than 70-something% of the neighborhood to agree to it. And I know because I did one in a neighborhood near the Whole Foods, and it took us 2 years. And we the first time we tried to do it, we missed it by about 5 signatures, and the second year we got it done barely. And so I don't think that there's unanimity on this idea, but I do get a lot of complaints from people littering, not enough signage. I do, and I see that there's some more comments here. I'm having a little trouble. My computer is actually dimming by itself. And Enrique, can you read some more of the questions, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So Todd is asking, what kind of parking enforcement is available or planned? Red curbs have helped to mitigate the issue, but there are visitors that simply disregard the red curbs on a regular basis. Many visitors also disregard the park hours, leading to noise after dark and early hours before sunrise.
I think I could speak on the park use just a little bit. With Santa Clara County Park Ordinance, the park is open for trail use from sunrise to sunset. So we all need to understand that that's kind of a swinging schedule based on the daylight savings and the seasons of the year. So in the summer peak use, we're definitely going to have longer park operating hours for sure. There are some occasional people who are outstanding or late from coming back on their hikes or runs. We have noticed an increase of newer park users after the COVID situation. So we do have people that are maybe not so familiar with the park and they're finding their way back to the parking lot, really pushing the sunset time. We do proactive multiple daily patrol checks in the area where the park rangers go inside the park and also around the perimeter of Maccabee, Whispering Pines, Sky Farm, and the other, road adjacent roadway surfaces in the area. So we're actively patrolling in the area daily.
And in terms of the City of San Jose parking compliance and enforcement team, ever since we started shelter in place, I think there was a policy level decision that because many people are forced to stay home, they don't have places to go. So in certain part of the city, the parking has become a much higher demand throughout the day than before. So certain understanding was passed to the supervisor as well as the officer in terms of the certain violation, unless it's directly safety related with, like for example, downtown parking meter, they're not enforcing it. They're just loosely enforcing the time limit. Going back on parking compliance and parking enforcement, I would recommend you can either contact me or Jason, or you can write to parking compliance directly. It's just parking.compliance@sanjoseca.gov. I can
Larry?
also, yes.
I'm sorry, let me add, maybe it's the ones that are more immediate. If you find yourself blocked in, even though the tips have been painted red, you can call the city's dispatch at 311, a non-emergency line, and an officer will be dispatched to address any of those concerns. So
Right. Calling 311 is for if you really need to get out, like that moment somebody's blocking your driveway entirely, or you don't believe you can make it out of your driveway safely or into your driveway safely, that is the direction to do. I am not too familiar on this particular part of the area where, in terms of the parking compliance. In some places of San Jose, they follow their route, the officer's route would follow the beat police route very closely. So I can start a communication with their supervisor to find out a little bit more about that. After all, parking or no parking is one of the services that we are still providing at this time.
Maybe we can give everybody's contact information, so, maybe county parks, and put them in the chat box so that people know who to, like if there's somebody after hours, perhaps who can they call, if there's some illegal parking issue. If everybody could put down pertinent, emails and phone numbers in the chat box so that our community can have that available, I would really appreciate that. And
yeah, I think Frank could maybe speak to that as well. My understanding is we direct people the same as you just said, to contact 311 if it's a non-urgent issue, 911 if it is urgent, and that dispatch will still notify county parks if it's something on parkland that we can respond to. Is that right, Frank?
Yeah, I definitely support that. Just for the ease of people remembering and not trying to have to figure out, who should I be contacting? What's the jurisdiction in the exact area where something's occurring or where I am at the moment? Let's just keep it simple. If it's an urgent emergency, life-threatening, something violent occurring, let's have everyone call 911. And again, if it's a non-emergency, urgent, or later follow-up issue, contact 311. This way, there's always somebody on the opposite side of the line, even after normal operating business hours, that can best determine where to route that call. If somebody calls 311 or 911, it's up to the dispatcher to figure out the correct response and jurisdiction for that. So it's best if they just use those guidelines. You'll always get the resources that you need.
All right then. So I think we're ready for the next question. Some folks here have their hands raised and they have a question in the Q&A section, and I don't think we've gotten to Manish yet. So let's allow Manish to ask their question.
Hi, I believe one of my complaints was raised by somebody else, but I want to bring everybody's attention to the issues which are non-parking related, and they become a big nuisance here. I moved here about a year ago, and in that time, I have witnessed basically breaking into the car and stealing things right in front of my house when the kids were playing in the garage door open. I mean, that's the audacity I've seen. And on the top of that, those thieves, they tried to run over the car driver as well. So this is going way beyond, like simple parking issues over here. And, we called police, we did file police complaint on that. So that is one. The second one was briefly mentioned. I also want to mention this again, is that my Ring camera caught a hiker simply walk onto my driveway and then defecate there. Okay, and then just leave as if this was okay to do. And then I ended up cleaning the whole mess. And that's not something you want to do. And and then I called 311 on this, and the response was that there are too many people coming there to track down, even though I have face captured on the Ring camera. Now that this is this is how worse it has become over here, that even if we are raising issues and complaints, basically the response is there's nothing can be done about it. So this is what I want to raise issue about. I mean, and the general nuisance in terms of people coming in and basically having a party. Like, this neighborhood does not look like, a quiet neighborhood to raise family, basically. So I wish I had known this before I bought this house. So this is the situation I'm in, 1 year living into this. And, like, I don't know, like, I'm looking for guidance. I've called for help, but the only response is, oh, I don't know what to do. So I was wondering, like, is there something that can be done?
The county parks does have toilets just at the trailhead area. The one is ADA accessible, and others a standard toilet, and they're cleaned multiple times weekly. So we do understand the need of people to have access to a restroom on the trail side, and that there's nothing else available in the area. So I wish that people would take a little more better approach to deciding where to do that. I do apologize for that occurring.
I understand, that is that, and I believe that is the right thing to do there, but that's what I'm saying, that this problem has grown beyond, the regular measures, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Well, I sympathize, and there's no accounting for bad behavior here, and it's disgusting behavior. We did get some promises here from the county and the city to work together on making sure that garbage is actually handled in a better way, and more cleanups are done. We also are gonna hopefully have better signage to allow people to know that where they could find parking in another entrance. We also are talking about all of you having contact information for the pertinent people to contact if you do experience problems. We've been painting curbs so that that people don't park in front of your houses, but if they do, you can call 911 if they're blocking your driveway, for that matter. We are trying to work on these issues, and I know that this is why we're having the meeting. I want you guys to tell us what's happening in your neighborhoods, and we want to be we do want to be of service to you. And we really can't solve all problems, but such as this incident with defecation, but we are going to work on the ones that we can solve. Let's go to the next question.
Absolutely. Arash has their hand raised, so let's hear from him.
I appreciate that. I live just a couple houses down from the entrance. When we moved here, there was certainly traffic, but it's disproportional to what it was. I don't think there's a singular solution here. Frankly, the only commitment I actually heard out of all of this and missing dinner with my family and all of those things is that possibly we were going to maybe get another trash can. Even the commitments for signage were so lukewarm that I'm not quite sure that's going to happen. I work as a consultant for county parks. I work as a consultant for the city parks department. I design park facilities. I understand how all of this works. Adding a parking lot simply is not going to do it. It's just going to bring in more people. But you go to Mockingbird, it's full. People are parking illegally there. There was triple cars blocked last weekend. There's a bigger issue here the county needs to address. They need to look at this facility comprehensively and understand its use and really come up with a mitigation plan. In the same way, the city needs to look at this facility. I've had people having sex in front of their cars in front of my house. I've had my son almost run over. I got threatened the other day by some kids and threatening to kick my ass because they didn't agree with me. I had my driveway blocked, and when you call, I'm sorry, 911 will not respond. 311 will not respond. And right now, the excuse is COVID. Before that, it was pensions. Before that is we're understaffed. I mean, there's always an issue, and there's always something more important. But the impact is grown here. You need signage. You need gates. I'm not suggesting that we don't allow people to use this. I love the facility. I use it multiple times a week. It just needs to be limited to the capacity of the facility. We talked about the road design. This is a residential road. It's not an arterial. It's not a collector. But if you do traffic counts on it, you're going to see how many cars come and visit here. And calling for enforcement, I saw a car drive by last week, it was 2 o'clock on like a Wednesday when it's 93 degrees outside. Yeah, you're not going to have issues then. You're going to have issues at 4 a.m. when you have people coming up and blaring their radios in front of my house, when I have people peeing on my driveway. There was literally, the street last year was filled with racks of clothes. I'm not talking about one rack. There was like 20 racks of clothes. And I went there and I said, what are you doing? They go, oh, we're filming up there. Now, I know county says that we can't account for bad behavior. City says, well, that's a county issue. There needs to be a plan, guys. And it's not a 5-year plan where we talk about it. Signage, gates, enforcement, patrols. Have an officer come out there at 6 in the morning on a Saturday. That's when the issues happen, right? At 10 o'clock at night, it's not one car that's there. It's not if someone got lost because they were up there and they're coming back late. I have 20 cars in front of my house at 11 o'clock every Saturday. 11 p.m., not a.m., right? We need to look at this comprehensively. I could go on and whine and whine. There are solutions here to limit this. And they're really not that grandiose or spectacular that they couldn't be done. It just actually needs someone to focus on it. And no one's focusing on it.
Well, I could tell you that, now that you've narrowed down what time that you want the police to come, 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. on Saturday.
Seriously. Or Sunday or Friday.
Well, look, I'm trying to accommodate here, and I will ask. So what I can do is ask our police department to come by this area at that time and see what's happening. So so we'll ask for Saturday and Sunday. Enrique, we will tell our captain to do so. I think we did get promises. I don't know if it was lukewarm. Was it lukewarm or was that a promise? Signage?
So that was a warm promise, not a lukewarm promise. No, I'm saying that county parks, I guess why you're saying it was lukewarm is that I don't want to commit to specifically what type of signage or specifically what type of enforcement, because clearly some of these issues are county parks responsibility and some of these issues are city responsibility. So what I would commit to is meeting with the city sometime very soon to debrief from this meeting to talk about the issues as we've identified them and sort of sort out who's going to do what. But we can definitely increase signage. We can definitely increase trash cans. Frank can speak to enforcement. As I said earlier, on the ranger side, as I said earlier, I have a commitment from our director. We could get our maintenance guys out there a little bit more often as well. So I'm not trying to be cagey. I definitely think that this is a major issue. It sort of comes in waves, and right now, system-wide, we have tremendous increase in use. And I also want to highlight, it's for those of us that are in this industry, because we're personally very passionate about what parks do for people. It's a really critical thing that's happening right now. People are, as everyone knows, stuck in their homes. Rates of child abuse and domestic violence of various kinds, substance abuse are going up. And parks are a place that people can go to get relief from some of those things. And so for that one suicide attempt that was mentioned earlier, it's hard for us to account how many suicides are actually avoided by people being able to, receive the mental health benefits of the park. So it's a challenging job that we're faced with, and I don't want to put an undue burden on this neighborhood, to provide that support for the rest of the community. That's not fair. So we do care, and we are trying to figure out some better solutions. And we definitely, I saw in one of the comments that we maybe don't understand the extent of the problem. I assure you that we hear you and we do, but we just need to figure out what we can do about it in coordination with the city.
I also could tell you that I agree with you about the 911, 311 system, but we did change it as of March of this year. 911 and 311 have been separated in the city of San Jose. 911 has their own dedicated team, and 311 now has their own customer service oriented team. So because 311 doesn't require the amount of training that 911 police dispatchers do, that's why we separated it, and we are able to handle a lot more calls in a more efficient way. It was started at the end of March, so I think that you will have a different experience if we call them. Just to let everybody on this call know, we have made some big changes because we have been rightly criticized for the hold times and the lack of response. So let's go to another question, please.
Absolutely. And I just want to remind everybody, so we still have about, let's say, 12 questions open on the Q&A, and we have about 23 minutes until 8 p.m. when I believe we have to let a lot of our guests go. So just keep that in mind, everybody, as you ask your questions, and we'll try to get to everybody as soon as we can. So that being said, Stephanie has her hand up and she has a question as well. I guess, the hand just disappeared.
So apologies, Stephanie, your version of Zoom isn't allowing you to speak. So if you want to chat and write your question or put it in the Q&A.
Yeah, I think, well, I'll just read the question in the Q&A section then for everybody's sake. So she says, Mickabee Mine Trail is advertised, directions and street parking advertised. I've lived here 35 years and this issue has continued to be a nuisance. Rolling Oaks Drive is greatly impacted. I requested a red curb. And yeah, so I guess we would just want to question then about the red curb again, maybe just issue a reminder about that.
No, I don't know what she means by advertise. Is she going on Google and it's bringing up that entrance? Is that what she's saying? If she could respond by text, that would be great.
Yeah, she's saying that Mickabee Mine Trail is advertised. And I believe Jeremy answered that question before. Do you want to rehash it for those who joined late?
Yes. So it is not advertised on the county parks website. It's not, the entrance and potential parking is not advertised on any of our guide maps. So the handouts that are handed out to visitors or available online no longer have Mickabee as a potential parking or staging area. The trail is shown on the map, but it does not indicate that there's any parking available. And we have tried in the past for this particular trail, as well as other trails that are mislabeled or attributed to county parks throughout Google Maps and Apple Maps. And unfortunately, we the moment that we get one removed, it is replaced by a user, and then Google and Apple and another vendors use that information and continue to advertise. So we face an uphill battle, and we spent a considerable amount of time and resources trying to fight this, and have just found that it really made no progress.
All right, then we'll move on to the next question there. Thank you so much. From Curtis, has there been any thought to putting a time limit on parking along Whispering Pines Drive that is directly adjacent to the park?
I think
yeah, that's a city question.
That's like having a parking permit situation, and that would be extremely difficult to do.
All right. Then I'll move on to the next question here. There's a Q&A and a raised hand from Sharon and David Armstrong.
You can unmute your mic.
I did. I just unmuted it. Okay, this is Sharon Armstrong. And this is not directly related to the question, but I have two issues. One is about the red curbs. We've been here 35 years, and last time we went through this, we did get some little bit of curb on either side of our driveway, and that has helped a lot. But now, during this COVID shelter in place, if we come up Pierce Ranch Road and try and turn the corner, 90% of the time we cannot get down our street because people are stopped, they're trying to park, or they're parked across the street in the park. So we would like to see the red curb extended a little bit in front of our house, and we talked to our neighbor about it, so that whole stretch there would only have parking on one side of the street. So we could actually drive down the street to get to our driveway. So that's one. The other issue, as far as trash and that kind of thing, most of the time when the street cleaners come by, they cannot clean in front of our house because their cars parked there. So I would like to see limited parking just so the street cleaners can come, or at the time the street cleaners are coming. That's it.
The Department of Transportation at one point had so many complaints in one of my neighborhoods that they put up signs, no parking on Monday between blah, 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 because of the street cleaning issue. However, as soon as we put those signs up, the neighbors thought they were ugly and wanted us to take them down. So there is a way that we can do this to enforce parking on specific days where we do street cleanings. But I would be hesitant because I got an earful both times. I had to, it was a no-win situation for me. We can do this. I think DOT can do this, if I'm not mistaken, because they did it already on, I think, Allen or some other street.
Councilmember, this is Lily. Can you clarify what is it that you're asking if we can do?
Yeah, they're having trouble with the days that street sweeping. People park on the days that they do street sweeping, and their streets never get swept. Is that what the caller's saying?
Yes.
How can we enforce street sweeping days?
Yes.
And I was talking about those signs, but go ahead.
Yeah. We can certainly follow up on that. I think it just during this shelter in place, the consideration has been to not overly enforce street sweeping days. I know that's been of a challenge for many areas where people are at home. But I think as we move out of the shelter in place and going back to more consistent enforcement for street sweeping days, that's very, very doable.
Is it possible to enforce in this area without signage?
Well,
Lily, if I may add something, then my experience with this issue is because the majority of the San Jose are not signed for street sweeping. You see a lot of those in downtown area, commercial zone in Willow Glen, and perhaps in West San Jose, the sporadic area. On the non-signed routes, you are correct that when the sweeper comes, they will come at the set time within that time range, and they will, if there's a car parked there, they cannot get to the curb. That being said, we have a special program. I am not sure whether they are still running it or not. It's by request only. And then they also have to be prioritized based on the severity and the many other issues. What they do is they will post those paper signs, like you see the tow-away sign. They will post those, they call it power sweeping. So they will post those signs at the area they want to sweep. I think a minimum of 3 days before the actual sweep date. So for example, if they want to sweep next Monday, they probably would start posting it today. And then let's say, for example, 9 to 11 a.m., you cannot park there or you'll be towed. So at the time of this activity or this exercise, there will be they will start with tow truck, towing these cars that are still there. And then the sweeper can come in and do a power sweep. Usually they come in with a team of probably 3 or 4 sweepers. So they can concentrate on this block. Usually I've seen them do it at these low-lying area where storm drain is often blocking the street flooding is often an issue. But like I said, this is the infrastructure and maintenance area. So I am not too sure, but what we can do is, like Lily said, we can pass this request or this type of request on to our the manager of the on-street sweeping program.
Thank you. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And I could tell you in another part of my district, they put up permanent signs, tow away on Monday at between, 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. is what I think it says on another part of my district, because they were having such a problem they could never sweep the streets there. Okay, next question.
Excellent. And I think that just also answered the next question, which is from Seiko, who had complaints about trash and such. So we'll move on to Todd. Todd has, is he able to speak now? There he is.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so I just wanted to emphasize that the problems that people are reporting are not new and not specific to COVID-19 and shelter in place. There's a problem that existed for at least the last 10 years, if not longer. My question to all of you, and first of all, I'll preface the question with, I appreciate you organizing the town hall. I think it's great that you're taking an interest and willing to listen to all of us. But the last one of these I was part of was 10 years ago. And so my question is to you is, given some of the things that are being tossed around as potential mitigations, can we get a commitment that we can make this a quarterly or at the very least a twice annually town hall discussion so we can hear updates on what actually is being done?
Well, I can tell you that I host meetings where you can come, any one of the town residents can come twice a month, and you don't have to wait a quarter or any time and talk about any issue that you wish. In fact, I did one yesterday at was it Wednesday? Yeah, at 8:30 in the morning. I have another one on Saturday, and I do this once a month, twice, I should say twice a month, one on Wednesday, one on Saturday every month. So you don't have to wait ever to speak to me. And we could do a special update if you guys decide on any one of those Saturdays or Wednesdays.
But we don't have all the representation that we have here, the Department of Transportation, Parks Service, right? We want to hear, you're getting a lot of feedback, you're getting a lot of ideas. And I think, it's great that the collective team is being receptive to that. We as residents would like to hear, an action plan and some updates.
I think I would be happy to convene something else in about another month or two, if that's okay with the participants here. Maybe we don't need all of you, but the ones who did a lot of the speaking today could join us.
Yeah, I'm thinking more, be aware that we have many night meetings and other things we participate in, what I think would be most effective is for us as the Parks Department to commit to a follow-up meeting from this one with outcomes after we've met and coordinated with the city. I don't know that an ongoing meeting would be necessary.
I think
Let's
that's
do a
fair.
follow-up.
I think a follow-up meeting and then we can reevaluate from there would be excellent. And I appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah.
And thank you. Thank you, Todd.
I do want to chime in and just say that we have about 10 minutes left. We do have a lot of questions and comments and residents raising their hands. We are trying to get to as many questions as possible. And we will not be able to get to all of the questions, but we do have your information. We've captured the questions. And so someone will be in touch with you if we do not get to your question before the end of the evening. But I will pass it back on to Enrique, and hopefully we can get through as many questions as possible in the next 10 minutes.
All right, thank you, Amel. We have a question from Adonis, if I'm pronouncing that, apologies. Would you consider an entrance fee for this specific entry point could reduce local traffic?
Yeah, this is also something that we've discussed internally as the Parks Department, and I think Frank can expand, but essentially it would be very difficult to have, to enforce. We would have to have something like a kiosk for a walk-in entrance, and that would be a really, really difficult thing for us to do, and we don't have anything like it anywhere else in the system. But Frank, do you have anything to add?
Oh, from my history and understanding that the parks are open to the general public for free of use for walk-in parking. Where we do charge fees on a regular basis is for a vehicle-related use, like parking in an improved area that has like a restroom, paved parking lot adjacent to large trailheads that are formal. We also charge for camping and boat launching and those types of things. And in my knowledge and history of the parks, we do not charge for a pedestrian entrance, and that would be hard to enforce because it would require some type of gated entry and regular daily staffing. But I do understand the consideration.
All right, then. Blanche has her hand raised. Go ahead. Blanche, I think you're muted.
Sorry. So to kind of piggyback on what Arash was saying earlier, one thing I think that can be a quick turnaround that a lot of us would appreciate is if someone could patrol this weekend. The weather's supposed to be 90. So I guarantee you from Friday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to like 7, 8 p.m., our streets all the way, we're on Rolling Oaks, they're packed like nonstop. And there's even confrontations in the middle of the streets. Like, this is chaos. Like, until you don't live it, I don't think you know the extent of it. And I think that's why everyone is so kind of heated about this, is because it's getting to the point it might be, and even to me, I feel a safety issue. It's not even a matter of parking anymore. I've kind of gone over that because we have our driveway. But when it comes to a safety of kids almost getting run over, people yelling at each other over parking, people yelling at my neighbor's gardener because they're on the phone to turn off their lawnmower, like it's out of control.
Yeah, I do understand that as well. I've been in that area at every given time of the day over the years that I've patrolled the Quicksilver area, including Maccabee. I can say that the county park rangers do patrol the interior of the park, the trailhead, and the perimeter several times a day, so we're in the area. Though we don't catch everything, we do intervene where we can when we see something occurring, and we do contact San Jose just to give them the beat information, and they can determine what their ability and response can be for those situations. But yeah, please continue to report anything that you see that's in progress or dangerous.
And you have my promise that I will be asking our police captain to try to come out on the weekends between 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. is what the last caller suggested. Have a couple of patrols out.
Right. One other thing I had to piggyback on my question is there any way, I don't know if it's a flyer or something, but people are pulling all the way into our driveways to make U-turns. That, to me, with 2 kids, is a big safety issue. So I don't, on my that's my private property. Nobody has the right to pull in all the way literally in my driveway unless they're coming to my house.
I honestly don't know what can be done about that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, again, revisiting the idea of sort of proactive communication to send people to a different location is something that we need to explore further. Throughout the shelter-in-place period, we have been posting things on our social media and our website to tell people to please not use our busiest park entrances or park entrances that they're aware of as being very busy. We've produced special maps that you can load in your Avenza map app, which is free. It actually directs you to places where it's easier to social distance and where parking is more available. So I will definitely talk with our public information officer about what proactive things we can do. We happen to know through our traffic counters and some of our intercept surveys that a lot of the use at this entrance is actually local. So it's like within the zip code. So people are getting in their car and not driving very far to get here, which is always funny to me that people drive 2 blocks to go for a hike. But, perhaps there are people that are even in our system and that would receive the e-blasts that we send out, and we could try to proactively say, hey, try to go somewhere else this weekend, or try a new entrance to a different park. But I don't know how much, that's going to affect things like these people making U-turns. And, I sympathize definitely with that difficult situation, especially with kids at home.
Thank you.
I also just want to chime in. I know we're running out of time, but it warms my heart to see people say that they think that if we put signage that ask people to be respectful, they would be respectful. I wish that the world really worked that way, and we do have a lot of signage like that throughout our park system. And again, I'm committing to talking to the city about what kind of signage would be the best. We've done a lot of temporary signage during the shelter-in-place order, a lot of social distancing signs. I think there are some at this entrance that show people how to stay 6 feet apart and be safe on the trails. So it's possible that we could produce just temporary signage and see what effect it has. I think for a lot of people, unfortunately, signs are white noise, and they don't choose to look at them or see them or actually, pay attention to what they say. But it's definitely it's something worth exploring, and we can do that when we work with the city.
Can we take one last question and close out the evening?
Absolutely. So we have 3 questions up, and we'll have this one answered. From Gerald, I think this needs to be studied further. Why the Mickey entrance is so popular, proximity to Metro San Jose, better trails than other entrances, etc. Popularity of Mickey versus the other entrances. It doesn't sound like the county really understands the extent of the problem.
Yeah, and again, I think I addressed this earlier in saying I think we do understand the problem, and we invested, well over $1 million in other locations and trying to make other entrances attractive and improve amenities in other locations. So we don't just put that kind of spending out on a whim. We definitely are very aware of the issues here. So like I said, I think we need to meet with the city and discuss it further. But there are also, again, I mentioned earlier, it's a really challenging field that we're in, park planning. There's a lot of unknowns. I mean, the Mission Peak example earlier is a great one. Why people want to walk up a completely barren hillside on, the hottest possible day in Fremont to take a picture, a selfie next to some post. It's very hard to understand why people choose to do some of the things that they do. And our assumptions about this entrance are basically that it's very close to residential areas, it's close to commercial areas and the conveniences of other errands people need to run. And so just logistically, it's very popular for those reasons. So it would take changing, human behavior to improve that. So we do want to look into it further, but it's a challenging thing to solve. And I think, again, all these mitigations are really the best avenue that we have right now.
All right, I do want to thank everybody who joined us today from the county and from our Department of Transportation. We will do a follow-up. These are the promises that I'm putting forward. We will do a follow-up meeting. We will be putting up new signs with the help of the county. We will be increasing garbage cans in the county has said that. I will be making sure that our captain increases patrols in the area on weekends. And we will also be looking at, Larry did say he was going to elevate this to the streets team, for the street cleaning team, for the question about not parked cars on the days that the streets get swept. So we will be elevating that issue to the right area. I want to also thank my staff and my interns, Adrian especially, for being here this evening. Thank you, and you all have a good night.